Hello, students. Welcome back. Today we are going to learn another important part of English grammar called the adverb. An adverb is a word that gives us more information about a verb, an adjective, another adverb, or even an entire sentence. Adverbs help us answer questions such as how, when, where, how often, and to what extent. In simple words, adverbs add more detail and meaning to our sentences. Without adverbs, our communication would be very basic and less interesting. For example, in the sentence, the student speaks, we know that the student speaks, but we do not know how. If we say, the student speaks clearly, the adverb clearly tells us how the student speaks. Adverbs help listeners and readers understand actions, feelings, and situations more clearly. Let us begin by learning the most common type of adverb, which is the adverb of manner. Adverbs of manner tell us how an action happens. Many of these adverbs end with ly. Examples include carefully, quickly, slowly, clearly, loudly, quietly, happily, sadly, beautifully, politely, easily, and confidently. For example, the teacher explains the lesson clearly. The adverb clearly tells us how the teacher explains the lesson. Another example is, the driver drives carefully. Here, carefully tells us how the driver drives. In everyday life, people often use adverbs of manner. At work, someone may say, please speak politely to customers. At school, a teacher may tell students, listen carefully. At home, parents may say, walk slowly on the wet floor. These adverbs make communication more precise and useful. Now let us learn about adverbs of time. These adverbs tell us when an action happens. Examples include today, yesterday, tomorrow, now, later, soon, recently, already, finally, and immediately. For example, I will finish my homework tomorrow. The adverb tomorrow tells us when the action will happen. Another example is, she arrived early. Here, early tells us when she arrived. In daily conversations, adverbs of time are extremely common. People say things such as, I will call you later, we met yesterday, the meeting starts now, or the package arrived recently. Learning these adverbs will help students talk about time more naturally and accurately. Another important group is adverbs of place. These adverbs tell us where an action happens. Examples include here, there, everywhere, nowhere, upstairs, downstairs, outside, inside, nearby, and abroad. For example, please come here. The adverb here tells us where the person should come. Another example is, the children are playing outside. In this sentence, outside tells us where the children are playing. In real-life situations, people use adverbs of place constantly. At home, someone may say, your keys are upstairs. At school, a teacher may say, please wait outside. During travel, you might hear, many people study abroad. These adverbs help us describe locations clearly. Let us now discuss adverbs of frequency. These adverbs tell us how often an action happens. Examples include always, usually, often, sometimes, occasionally, rarely, seldom, and never. For example, I always brush my teeth before bed. The adverb, always, tells us how often the action happens. Another example is, she usually drinks coffee in the morning. In daily English conversations, adverbs of frequency are used all the time. People say, I often visit my grandparents. They sometimes eat at restaurants. Or he never misses class. Learning these adverbs is important because they help students describe habits and routines. Let us practice adverbs of frequency in everyday situations. Imagine a student talking about his life. He may say, I usually wake up at 6 o'clock. I always eat breakfast before school. I often study English in the evening. I sometimes watch movies with my friends. I rarely stay up late. I never skip my homework. Notice how these adverbs help describe how often each activity happens. Without adverbs, the information would be much less detailed. Another important type is adverbs of degree. These adverbs tell us the intensity or extent of something. Examples include very, quite, too, enough, almost, extremely, completely, absolutely, and nearly. For example, the lesson is very interesting. The adverb very increases the strength of the adjective interesting. Another example is, she is extremely talented. Here, extremely emphasizes the adjective talented. In daily conversations, people frequently use adverbs of degree. Someone might say, I am very tired, the food is quite delicious, or the movie was absolutely amazing. These adverbs help speakers express stronger feelings and opinions. Adverbs can also modify other adverbs. For example, the athlete runs very quickly. In this sentence, very modifies the adverb quickly. Another example is, she speaks incredibly clearly. Here, incredibly modifies the adverb clearly. By combining adverbs, speakers can provide even more detailed information. This is common in both spoken and written English. Students should also understand the position of adverbs in sentences. Adverbs can appear at the beginning, middle, or end of a sentence depending on the type of adverb. For example, yesterday we visited the museum. Here, the adverb appears at the beginning. She always studies hard. Here, the adverb appears in the middle. The children played outside. Here, the adverb appears at the end. Learning where to place adverbs correctly will make your English sound more natural. Now let us look at adverbs in real-life situations. Imagine you are at school. You may hear sentences such as, the teacher speaks clearly. The students listen carefully. The principal arrived early. The children happily participated in the activity. In these examples, adverbs add important details about how actions happen. At home you may hear, my father works hard. My mother patiently teaches my younger sister. The baby sleeps peacefully. We usually eat dinner together. These adverbs make the sentences richer and more meaningful. At work, adverbs are also very important. For example, the manager responded quickly. The employees worked efficiently. The company recently launched a new product. The team successfully completed the project. Professional communication often uses adverbs to describe performance, timing, and effectiveness. Learning these adverbs will help students communicate more effectively in the workplace. When traveling, adverbs are useful for describing experiences. For example, we arrived safely at the airport. The tour guide spoke clearly. The train moved slowly through the mountains. The tourists happily explored the city. These adverbs help make travel stories more interesting and descriptive. Students can practice by talking about a recent trip using adverbs. Adverbs are also important in storytelling. Consider this short story. One morning, a young girl quietly opened her bedroom door. She carefully walked downstairs and happily greeted her parents. After breakfast, she quickly packed her school bag and confidently left for school. During class, she listened attentively and answered questions correctly. Later, she returned home safely and peacefully went to bed. Notice how the adverbs make the story more vivid and engaging. Without them, the story would sound less detailed and interesting. Let us practice some useful real-life sentences. Repeat these sentences aloud to improve your fluency and pronunciation. She speaks English confidently. The teacher explained the lesson clearly. I always arrive on time. They happily celebrated their success. Please drive carefully. We recently visited our relatives. The children quietly enter the library. He never forgets his homework. The manager responded quickly. The athlete ran extremely fast. These examples show how adverbs are used naturally in everyday communication. English learners often make mistakes with adverbs. For example, some students say, he speaks very good, instead of he speaks very well. Remember that good is an adjective, while well is an adverb. Another common mistake is placing adverbs incorrectly. For example, instead of saying, I eat always breakfast, we should say, I always eat breakfast. Careful practice will help students avoid these mistakes and improve their grammar. One effective way to learn adverbs is to keep a daily journal. Write sentences about your day and include adverbs whenever possible. For example, I woke up early this morning. I quickly got dressed and happily ate breakfast with my family. Later, I carefully completed my work. In the evening, I peacefully relaxed at home. This exercise helps students become comfortable using adverbs naturally. Another excellent practice is describing people with adverbs. For example, my teacher speaks clearly and patiently. My friend listens carefully. My brother drives responsibly. My mother cooks beautifully. These descriptions make your English more expressive and interesting. Instead of giving only basic information, adverbs help paint a clearer picture for listeners and readers. In conversations, adverbs can also help us sound more polite. For example, instead of saying, speak, we can say, please speak slowly. Instead of saying, explain, we can say, could you explain it clearly? These small changes make communication more respectful and effective. Native English speakers often use adverbs in this way during professional and social interactions. In conclusion, adverbs are an essential part of English grammar because they provide additional information about actions, descriptions, and situations. They help answer important questions such as how, when, where, how often, and to what extent. By learning adverbs of manner, time, place, frequency, and degree, students can make their English more detailed, natural, and expressive. Practice using adverbs every day in speaking, writing, reading, and listening. Notice how native speakers use adverbs in conversations, movies, books, and podcasts. The more adverbs you learn and use, the more fluent and confident you will become in English. Remember, adverbs are powerful words that add color, detail, and meaning to your communication. Thanks for listening and being with me.